In this video, a few words about the 3-axis sweep assembly. So if you go to your Cloud Assets Add-ons Foundry content, you have the Mesh Fusion assemblies. If you have downloaded these, you will find them in Assets, Assemblies, Item Assemblies, Mesh Fusion assemblies, and there you have your 3-axis sweep assembly. Double click on it, and this is what gets imported. So after you've imported that assembly, when you go to your item list, you have a group locator called 3-axis fusion sweep. If you open that one, you have 3 additional locators, group locators. So you have one for each axis. Blue is for the z-axis, of course, green for the y-axis, and red for the x-axis. Now let me first close or hide the other ones and focus on one. So what you have here is an extrusion of a polygon. So if I open that group locator, you see that you have a procedural mesh. If I click on that in my deformers, procedural operators list, you have your deform folder, and you have a merge of a polygon, 2 vertex bevels, a curve extrude, and then a set polygon type, which has been set to Catmull Clark. So if I turn on ghost mode and select this one, so that is the merge of the polygon, then you have a vertex bevel. When I zoom in, you see that the vertices are being beveled. You have another vertex bevel, but a note on that, the rig has been set up in such a way that either the vertex bevel, which uses the weight map, is being activated, or the vertex bevel is being activated. They never are active at the same time. So you only have one vertex bevel at each and every time. Then you have your curve extrude, so that does the extrusion, and you have a set polygon type. When you go to your mesh, your item properties, see it's been set to Catmull Clark, so you can use it for mesh fusion. So as I said earlier, this is actually a simple polygon. It is being drawn as a wireframe, because if I go to my display option, you see that it has draw options, and when you press the O key and go to active meshes, you see that enable independent drawing has been checked. So that's why that polygon is being rendered as a wireframe. You also have a couple of widgets over here that you can click on in item mode. The green triangle, when you click on it, you get a pop-up, and you can activate scripts to replace the profile with the selection, or merge the selection with the profile. You have that blue one over here, and well, my extrusion disappears. That's because I have ghosted on, so let me turn ghosted off again. So click on the blue one again. Here you can flip the profile horizontally, vertically, or flip the normals. Also import a preset profile or merge a preset profile. And the flipping becomes important, because if I were to say, well, flip the profile normals, now you see that it has been turned inside out, if you will, and now it's going to be differently in the mesh fusion, of course, than when you have it like that. And then the last two, you have the green one. When you click on this one, this opens a pop-up. So each profile for each axis has user channels associated with it. Enable vertex bevel, use vert bevel weights, use bevel onset. I will cover the importance of this later on. You have your bevel inset and your round level. If you keep this checked and unselect the item, then that disappears, but when you select the profile again, you see that when it's checked, it reappears. And then over here, the red one, when you click it, then you should take note of your weight map list. So I have incorporated the weight map list over here in my UI. I have a weight map called Fusion Bevel. If you click that red one, that weight map gets selected. The importance of that will become clearer later on. Oh, and I have not created that weight map myself. That weight map is actually being imported with the assembly. That is important to know. Another important feature is that each profile has a vertex selection set. So if I go to vertex component mode, now you see that in the quick selects that is not grayed out anymore. So I have, when I click on it, I have one vertex selection set also imported with the assembly. When I click this, you see that by default all the vertices belong to that set, and this is also something you're going to use a lot with this assembly. Before I move on to actual editing, maybe also a few words about the procedural. When I select it and go to my procedural list, you have your merge of your polygon, and then you have your vertex bevels. As stated earlier, it's going to be either the vertex bevel X which is going to be performed, or the vertex bevel WX which is going to be performed. If you want to check out how that works, you can select it and add that to your schematic. And let me get my schematic over here. So you can expand everything in the schematic and figure it out what actually is going on with the logic. But when I click my profile over here, and maybe I deselect everything first, so now if I go back, so with everything unchecked, when I go back to my procedural, the only thing that happens is the merge of the polygon, the extrusion, and it turning to Catmull Clark. So that is all that is going on. No vertex beveling is going on, as you can see in the extrusion. If I select that profile again and say enable vertex bevel, now all the vertices are being beveled. So every single vertex of your polygon is being beveled. And when I go to my profile, so that this vertex bevel X, which is being executed. If you've noticed that I've also unchecked use bevel on set, so again, if I go to my procedural one and open the vertex bevel X, you'll see that it has nothing in the toolpipe. It has a selection by set, the bevel on set, but remember, I unchecked use bevel on set, so that vertex bevel is simply being performed on each and every vertex. Now, if I check use bevel on set, nothing has changed, and that is, I will explain that later. So now I am using the bevel on set, but earlier I said if I go to component mode, vertex mode, and do a quick select of the bevel on set, every vert belongs to that set. So every vertex belonging to the bevel on set now is being beveled. I can adjust the bevel inset if I want to. I can adjust the round level, just like that. And if I up my bevel inset, it will become clearer that I am doing more rounding, just like that. And I can add and subtract vertices from that set. So if I, for instance, select that vert and do remove from set, now that vert is not being beveled. The other ones are, but that one is not. So that is a possible combination of how you want to work. You also have use vert bevel weights, and as stated earlier, that either the one or the other is active. So let me first uncheck use bevel on set again. So now all vertices are being beveled. If I now also check use vert bevel weights, now it appears that both are active. But again, the rig has been set up in such a manner that when you check both, that only the vert bevel weights is now active. So I'm going to back to my round level of 1. And if I uncheck this, you see that you have no vertex beveling at all. So in order to turn on the vert bevel with weights, you actually have to turn on enable vertex bevel and then also turn on use vertex bevel weights. And now in the procedural, when I go to the procedural, it's actually only the vertex bevel WX which is being executed. So the vertex bevel X over here has been turned off. So if I select it and go to my channels, and that's off screen, so I'm going to copy this and go to my channels. You see that enable is false right now, so that vertex bevel X is actually not being executed because I've checked use vert bevel weights. So it's either one or the other, but in order to have the weights active, you have to check both. Okay, so let me explore a bit that vert bevel WX. So in the toolpipe, it has a weight map falloff. When you go to your item properties, you see that the weight map has been set to that Fusion bevel weight map. And it also has a select by selection set, and that is that bevel set. So also again for the bevel weights, I can use the set or not use the set. So right now use bevel on set has been unchecked, and I don't know if all the vertices belong to it, so quick select bevel on. So right now, okay, and let me explore for a moment. Yeah, it can be a bit confusing. So right now I have unchecked use bevel on set, so all the vertices are going to be beveled. And since I am using the vert bevel weights, I can actually specify the weight. By the way, I have turned on in viewport properties, so when you press the O key and go to active meshes, you have show weight values, which is handy when you're adjusting the weights. So if I press Shift W to activate my vertex map weight tool, when I click and drag in the viewport, you can see that I can adjust the weights of that bevel, because when use vert bevel weights is checked, as said earlier, when I go to my procedural, it is the vertex bevel WX which gets activated, and that operates through a weight map falloff. The weight map has been set to that Fusion bevel, and it also works on the selection set, but that is not active right now. Use bevel on set has been turned off. So right now the vertex bevel is going to be performed on every vertex, and with the vertex map weight tool I can adjust the weight and maybe set my bevel inset back to 50% of 50 millimeters. So again, Shift W, and you can also, while the tool is active, enter a value straight on, drop the tool, Shift W, just like that. So that is the advantage now in Modo 12, since you have that weight map falloff. I am working with a simple polygon with 4 vertices, but I get an extrusion which is completely being customized. Now, as with the vertex bevel, I can also, for the vertex bevel weights, use the bevel on set, and when I check that, you see that vert now not has been beveled. Again, when I go to my quick select and select the bevel on set, you see that vertex does not belong to the set and does not get beveled. So a few things to take into account when using this assembly. If you uncheck everything, then no vertices of your polygon get beveled, or polygons, because you can have multiple polygons in this mesh item layer. And the extrusion is being performed and everything is being turned into Catmull Clark. If I check enable vertex bevel, then all vertices get beveled, since I have not checked use bevel on set. And I can of course adjust the beveled inset and the bevel rounding, that can I always adjust. I can say use the bevel on set, and then only the vertices belonging to the set get beveled. And again, I can adjust the bevel inset and the rounding like that. When I turn it off, I can also say no, I don't want the regular bevel, I want to use the bevel weights, and with use bevel on set unchecked, all the vertices will get beveled, modulated through the weight map. So make sure that you have your weight map selected when you adjust the weights. Just like that. And you can also use the bevel on set, so vertices that do not belong to the set do not get beveled. So with that long and boring introduction out of the way, let's do some actual editing. So I've started fresh and I have my group locators over here. I'm going to hide the Z and the Y axis for now. I'm going to select my X profile, and I have enable vertex bevel on with bevel weights and use the bevel on set. So when I go to component mode right now, I can do regular modeling operations. So for instance, Alt C and scale this out just like that. Now it's best when you create additional geometry like this to actually delete the inner edges. So Shift Backspace to get clear of that edge over there, but I have retained my vertices, so if I make my vertices visible, see that they're still there, of course. When I go to my quick select and select the bevel selection, vertex selection set, you see that those newly created vertices do not belong to that set. Now let me undo for a moment and get that edge back, just like that. And in vertex component mode, do a N with my fusion bevel weight map selected. That's important. Do some weighting. That will not matter since I have used bevel on set checked. So only the vertices that belong to the set are being beveled. So use vert bevel weights now, or adjusting the weights has no effect. If I uncheck use bevel on set, then you have a bit of a problem, and that is because of the edge. That is why I did an undo to get that edge back. So you should get clear of those edges, and then everything is back to normal again. And I can of course also add that vert to the set. So if I check use bevel on set and add that point to the set, so add to set, now that vertex gets beveled, but that bottom one that does not belong to the set does not get beveled. Just like that. Now if I select this polygon and press Ctrl C and Ctrl V, that's now they're overlapping, but I'm going to scale it down. Now I am adding another one, and if I press the F key to flip it, now that becomes an inverted normal one, and that will play a role in the mesh fusion. So if I unhide my profile sweep Z group now, let's say that I want to turn this into a mesh fusion, and maybe first in component mode also scale that one up a bit. So I'm going to make it a bit bigger, just like that. In item mode, select the procedural. So if I open my item list, you see that profile sweep mesh X has now been selected, the procedural one. And then go to new mesh fusion. I'm going to call this fuse absolute strip width. That's okay, and click OK. And now select that Z and press the F key in the item list, that profile sweep mesh Z, and then together with my primary, and say in my fusion tools do an intersection like that, now you see that I have created a mesh fusion with those sweeps. So I'm going to toggle my wires just like that, press Ctrl F to toggle source visibility, and now you see that polygon that has been flipped because the normal is pointing the other way. It's making a hole just like that. And if I unhide my y-axis, I can of course again select my procedural, and with the primary also selected, go to my fusion tools, also specify intersection just like that, hide my sources, and you see everything is being intersected on all axes. So if I unhide my sources, so my x-axis acts as my primary and my y and z axis act as intersections. So if I go to my y group and select the profile sweep profile in y, again in component mode I can adjust this. So if I select that polygon, do a Ctrl C and a Ctrl V, again that will be a bit problematic because right now they are intersecting. If I make this smaller and also flip it, now I am cutting a hole in my mesh fusion. So toggle source visibility. So that is how an example of how you can use this assembly with the polygons. As said earlier, you also have these widgets over here, so you can replace the profile with a selection. So if I create another mesh item layer, go for instance to my front view, I'm going to hide everything, create a polygon like that. I'm going to subdivide it, center, select it all, make it a bit bigger. Also make sure that my inner edges are gone, shift backspace, and that remaining vert is gone. Maybe do symmetrical slice like that, and another one, select these, scale these for instance to make a bit of an interesting shape. Okay, also make sure that I lose these edges, shift backspace, and it's also important to save regularly, unhide everything again, and right now I'm going to clear that, so Control X, make it a bit bigger. Oh, and I have my symmetry on, so symmetry off, R to scale, make it a bit bigger, just like that. Okay, drop the tool, go back to item mode, and with that item selected, I'm going to first duplicate it to have a copy. Select that item and then select also the profile, and then when you click on that triangle you can say replace profile with selection, and now that is the result. Probably my polygon has been flipped, so if I flip, I'll go to polygon mode and flip it, and this happened to me earlier, that the polygon also jumps to over there. I don't know why that happens. Let me pause for a moment. So I'm back and don't know really what happened there. It happens sometimes. So I've selected the polygon again, press the F key to flip it. Okay, just like that. And now I'm going to go back to that mesh over here. Control C to copy, Control V to paste, R to scale down. Okay, and then flip it, drop the tool and flip it. So now if I hide that one, no, this one should be flipped. Okay, unhide. Okay, Control S to save, unhide everything. In item mode with that layer selected and with my X profile selected, again click on the triangle, replace profile with selection, and sometimes you get in the mesh fusion a few problems that may need resolving. So select it. If I flip them both, yep. So you do need to have your polygons normals into the right direction to have it work. So I'm going to select that one, scale it down a bit, just like that. I'm going to check if any of these vertices belong to my selection set, and I think they do not. No, so when I do a quick select, nothing has been selected in my viewport, so they do not belong to the set. So if I double click everything, and I'm going to save again, so add to set, and also my weights are 0 right now, so Shift W, and for instance 25% with my weight map fusion bevel selected, click in the viewport and everything gets updated. So if I adjust the weights, for instance, of maybe these outer ones, Shift W to about 150%, click in the viewport. Yeah, that won't make much of a difference because everything is being cut out because of the intersect of the other axis, but these inner ones, they will... Yeah, and I can't select these vertices by left mouse button click and paint because their normals are flipped, so if I turn around I can, or I can of course do a middle mouse button drag select, Shift W, 150%, click, and you see that the mesh fusion updates, and with the weight, vertex map weight tool still active, I can adjust the weights, press enter, and you see that with adjusting the weights I get a completely different profile, just like that. Of course, for my Z profile, select the polygon, Ctrl Z, Ctrl V, R to scale, drop the tool, F to flip it, and now I have a cutout in Z, and again with that polygon selected, middle mouse button drag, press the D key, and again with my vertices do a quick select of the bevel set, and you see that those inner verts do not belong to the set, and furthermore I should get rid of those edges, so select those edges, shift backspace, that's better, go to vert mode, quick select, bevel on, those middle edges do. So middle vertices do not belong, so select them, add to set, W for the weight, maybe 25%, click, and now they are sharper, just like that. And of course I can do something similar for my y-axis. So if I press Ctrl F, toggle source visibility, it's a bit difficult to see the extrusions like that with all the verts visible. But anyway, I hope you get the idea. And in this tutorial I've used the polygons, but you can also use profiles. So if you create closed B-spline profiles, then you can exchange these polygons with B-splines. The downside of that is that you cannot use the weights, because, well, with the B-splines you adjust the vertices of the B-splines and the rounding happens because of the B-splines. So the advantage of using polygons now in Modo 12 with the weight map Falloff is that you can have very simple geometry like that, and in order to adjust the shape you just have to drag a few points around. You can manipulate the polygons with regular modeling tools, and if you check your use vert bevel weights and use bevel onset, you have extra options for rounding off with very little geometry, and everything is procedural. So people who own ZBrush know of Shadowbox. You can achieve with Shadowbox similar results in ZBrush, but in Modo the advantage is that everything is procedural and everything can be easily edited after the fact, as I've shown you. So I hope my video wasn't too confusing and that everything is a bit clear, and well, I would say have fun with the 3-axis sweep created by Daryl Anderson. Bye for now.